Welcome back to the Patch Notes. My name is Daz the Ghost. I have with me today my buddy Zack, my buddy Josh. Say hi.
Heyo. What is up, people? The Supreme Being is here.
He is the Supreme Being. He is our producer in the house. You can
Whoop,
just go ahead and
whoop.
put some trumpets down beside you really quick. There we go. Boom. Fanfare. As you'll notice, we don't have Prince Ali here today. Al was just feeling a little under the weather, so I decided to take over and bring some goons together into my goon cave so we can goon about video games together. Now, is that wrong? Probably. Is it bad for ratings? Absolutely. Do I care? Not at all. Prince Ali wasn't here to pump my brakes, so we're going to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about today. I think we should first, though, talk about what we're gaming on. I have recently been playing a lot of Destiny 2 with Zack. He has been sherping me through some things, reconnected with some friends back at my old crypt back in that town, and it's been nice. We kind of got to all get together, do Turbo Gamer things, and be merry, as well as playing some Hearthstone and some classic Fallout on my end. Now, Josh, what have you been gaming on?
I actually haven't been gaming on too much lately. However, I did buy the Square Enix. I did buy the Square Enix Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Deluxe Edition, which
Dude, that game is
has
amazing.
it is a fucking amazing. I have it on Steam. I did not realize I didn't have it physical, so I bought that edition. It has the steel book, my guy.
Yo!
That steel book, I love it.
I love physical media in general because I hate the idea of licensing games to people. Games run out of service are a product. If you can revoke it, that's not much of a product, is it, right? But we'll talk about that another episode. We'll talk about that another episode. Anything else that you've been really loving so far?
Game-wise, not really. I mean, I haven't been playing too many games at the moment, just because I'm just so
Con
tired after
season will be
work.
coming up too.
Yeah, con season be
So
coming up.
we've been
Tired after work. Yeah.
We've been doing it. But Zach, any other games you've been gaming on other than Destiny 2?
Besides Destiny, I've been jumping around here and there. Been doing Helldivers, of course.
Hell yeah.
Also been playing the newest Stardew Valley update. It's been good.
Ooh.
Ooh.
What's that about? I've heard some good things. What are your thoughts? Is it worth jumping back in for?
Yeah, it changes up decent amount of the progression. You have they've done some changes to allowing remixed bundles. There's more things you can find, a lot of secrets as well, and it's, in my opinion, not as big as when they added Ginger Island. I forget what update that was, but it's still decently sizable chunk of content. Is pretty good.
Isn't there a mod or DLC that adds the Baldur's Gate 3 characters?
Yes,
That's
is.
fucking awesome.
I
Okay,
heard
you
about
guys have
that.
convinced me. This is bad. I have so many games on my plate already, but I do host a gaming podcast, or at least co-host, so guess
Other
back to the
than
grindstone, right?
Other than that, I've been playing a bit of League of Legends. Been getting back into that after years, and
Oh, God bless you.
I've been playing a lot of Balatro. That game
Ooh.
is addicting. All
You know what's-
productivity goes out the window.
Oh yeah, you know what's funny? I used to work a job where we would go from getting a lot of work to getting no work. So I bought a Legion Go, and one of the only things I had on it, other than some emulation stuff for very games that I already owned previously, because that's important to note for those feds listening. I also had Balatro because one of our mutual friends introduced me to it, and I completely agree. You'll turn on this game, it'll feel like I've only played like 4 or 5 games, and suddenly you look outside and it's dark out. It is a hole to fall into. It's very fun, especially if you like roguelites. But now that we've talked a little bit about the games that we've been gaming on this past week, why don't we talk about tonight's theme, which is live service do's and don'ts, the missteps that different games can take, and the fact that not having a great start doesn't necessarily mean that a game is dead for good. I think a good one to start here with is a game that started off well and then just ate shit really, really hard. Of course, I'm talking about the Democracy Bros, Helldiver 2.
For
Now,
democracy.
for Democracy, I know it sounds like Zach and I have been playing this a little bit. I know, Josh, if I remember correctly, you've jumped in there a couple times too, haven't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've played it here and there, and it's definitely fun. More fun when you have friends.
Oh yeah. And I think it's one of those games where it's nice to get the boys together for an evening and just shoot the shit out of some stuff and have a good time. Now, that being said, I think this is a good example of why publishers need to just stick to publishing and not sticking their greedy little fingers into every hole that they can fit them in. Now, the beauty of Helldivers is that the devs are so blunt. The downside to them being blunt is them almost losing their publisher. Do either of you guys want to take this away on exactly what happened this week?
Yeah. So, long story short, originally on Helldivers launch, there was an option to link up your PlayStation Network account. It was going to be required, but they let you skip it due to some bugs. Recently, they decided, Sony was like, all right, it's time to cut that. Time to get your PlayStation Network accounts. Time to pump our numbers up, get our data. Problem with that.
Oh yeah, we love selling metadata.
Problem with that is that Helldivers had blown up way further than they had expected, and it had been purchased in many different countries where you couldn't make a PlayStation Network account. It just wasn't possible.
Now, let me jump in here just for a sec. I think a good thing to point out is that I understand PlayStation's networks side a bit with this, right? So if you are living in a country where there's not enough people that can easily access internet that supports gaming well for online gaming, I understand not wanting to spend a ludicrous amount of money creating infrastructure for them to be able to access your network. But I think it's cringe that you're then not even going to offer them a single player experience at the very least. Plenty of other games have offered single player or multiplayer versions of their games when they cut service. I think a good example is that dodgeball game that Ubisoft put out not too long ago as a publisher, and then maybe 2 or 3 years, I think it's Knockout City, that's right. 2 or 3 years later, it ends, and the publisher goes out of their way to make a build where you can create your own servers, and I think that's how it should be. Now, Josh, what are your thoughts on this? I'm personally pretty middle of the road. I understand where Sony is coming from as a business, but I also feel as though this is fucked from a consumer perspective, right? It is wrong to sell something that they're not going to be able to use in 2 months. That's like buying a car and not being able to drive it because Tesla turns it off because you moved it into a different country, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first heard of this, I was like, yeah, whatever. It's like most people have a PSN account. It's like it's not a big deal. But then I started digging in deeper, and it's like, oh shit, this is actually PlayStation pushing this, not Arrowhead Games, which I think a lot of us thought were all for it as well. But then, I mean, so I found about this on TikTok of all places, which is
Oh
obviously
yeah, we love
where we get
TikTok,
all our
the
news.
best news source. Yeah.
Best news source, only news source anyone ever cares about nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
I get the drip feed TikToks. TikToks. I get the drip feed TikToks from Instagram Reels, so I get them secondhand. But
Oh yeah, you get the creme de la creme. They get the shit off the top for you. They're like, let me sort through the trash and give you some good shit. I feel you. That's what I do with YouTube Shorts.
No man, you get it third hand. You get it from Facebook.
Oh no!
Oh
no!
No, so
I wish
yeah,
I could use this hammer on you right now. I wish I could pull out the bonk hammer and bonk you.
Get it
Bonk
from
hammer.
Gamer Dad's Facebook group.
Rip.
Hey, you know what? That's it. That's it. All right. You fucking watch yourself, sir. You watch yourself. Okay.
I got a target on my back. All right.
I got a fucking gun. I'm not afraid to use it.
Speaking about guns. No, yeah. So I've been reading this all through last weekend, and by the way, we're recording this on Wednesday, so by now it's mostly over and uploading
Oh dear God, I
on
hope
Friday, so
so.
it's mostly over. But when I saw it over the weekend and into Sunday, Monday, the reviews, the all-time reviews were abysmal.
I think it was in the 60s last time I checked. It's
Ye-
probably back up by now because I know a lot of
yeah,
people unrefunded and reviewed with like, "Oh my goodness, I love Arrowhead games. They're so fucking hilarious and based," which is true. I think it's crazy that a developer had a public fist fight with one of the most prominent companies in the world, not just in gaming, right? Because Sony makes, cinematic experiences. They make hardware. They make audio equipment, TVs, like you have to think about it in that scope, right? Arrowhead is such an itty bitty dude. It's like a toddler picking a fight with Mike Tyson and they won, right? Like it's boggling. And they did this publicly, which could have totally ruined their ability to make games in the future, but they just don't give a fuck. And I think that is amazing. And for that, Arrowhead gets an A. But you know what they get an F for? Letting it happen in the first place. And their community management sucks.
yeah, not that great, but yeah, a huge W for Arrowhead for actually winning this. And funny enough, I saw the other day that the outcome of this was so astronomically good that they released a free cape for
They
everyone
did the
that had
downvote
that
cape.
had
They're
the
It's
releasing
so
a
negative.
free cape.
good.
It's hilarious. So yeah, the as of the recording of this on Wednesday, May 8th, the all-time reviews are mostly positive at 621,000 reviews, and the recent reviews are mixed with 334 and 35,000.
Well,
Um,
part of that is just
most
users
of
are
those
making
are
more
just people
clickbait.
who haven't changed their reviews from negative to positive.
Oh yeah, and I do want to put we can put the bets in. I'm gonna hedge my bet that some other dumb thing will happen with Arrowhead because they are a fledgling studio in the most like stringent definition of the word. Because I've enjoyed their previous game that I've played, which is Helldivers 1 through PlayStation Plus,
Yeah.
and I think I would not be surprised if they make at least 2 or 3 more major missteps before we see them grow into their maturity as a major developer. Now, with that being said, we can put an editor's note about how wrong I am below if there's no other bullshit that happens by then. But
We'll see.
let's talk about a W. And this is actually part of the reason I brought my buddy Zack on here because we've played Destiny 2 on and off together. I know I've been a Destiny gamer a little bit longer than you have, but you're definitely the Destiny 2 veteran out of the two of us.
Yeah.
Because I've been playing since Taken King, which
I've
was
been
not
playing
super
Season of
popular.
Rivals.
Oh,
So
yeah, there you go.
way later.
Yeah, but I think you've definitely probably scored more game time than me at this point because I played the shit out of Destiny 2: The Taken King. It was when the Destiny 1: The Taken King, which is when the popularity kind of skyrocketed, but it wasn't super popular before that. And on Destiny 2 base game, I had a great time, but after Forsaken, the content drought and the decisions they were making to over monetize just really rubbed me the wrong way, and I stopped. But why don't you talk to me a little bit about what your experience with Destiny 2 has been? Because I think they're a good example of how live service games can flounder hard and recover.
Yeah, so Destiny has been a bit of a rocky road for the last year. Or a little over the last year. They started really high, like when what I think is the highest point they've had, and this is from someone who has been here since Season of Arrival, so I wasn't around for the Forsaken era. I know that holds a lot of nostalgia for people, but
Babe
Witch,
6, you will forever be remembered.
uh, Witch Queen was, in my opinion, the height of Destiny 2, and all the seasons after Witch Queen. Witch Queen up to Season of the Seraph was
Really?
fantastic. It was incredible. And we get to Season of the Seraph. Season of the Seraph was one of the best seasons I think they've ever done. In fact, I think the best season they've done, maybe close to Wish. Wish, they're close to each other. The current season right now. And there was so much hype going into Lightfall.
Oh yeah, and I remember Lightfall was a big letdown.
It flopped. Gameplay
Yeah,
wise, it was
man.
all right, but the narrative just missed the mark. And then
You can definitely
after
tell
that,
that the writers fell asleep at the wheel because I just played Lightfall campaign through, and the setting's really fucking cool. They really hit that cyberpunk on the peak of cyberpunk being a cool aesthetic. I think. I mean, I'm speaking with a cyberpunk chair sitting in my crypt right now, but now I gotta say, the post-launch support seems to have really knocked it out of the park because that's what made me come back. I saw everybody start to get back into it, and thankfully Zack, as well as a lot of our old friends, which God bless all of them, have been slowly but surely carrying me into the light and back up to where I need to be to do endgame content, and it has been a blast. And I think, as someone who just got back into it, Destiny 2 is in a great place if you're looking to get back in. They have a lot of opportunities for you to get max level gear right now, just as soon as you log in, so that way you can do the content that's fun. Whether that's endgame content you want to do and preparing for that, which you still will need to do some grinding for, but it's not as monotonous as it used to be. And why don't you tell us a little bit about how you feel about that? Because I know you had some words last time we talked about it, about
so
your thoughts on grind comparatively.
actually, there's a little bit more that they've done that was just like a couple days ago. Not only is it like Into the Light being a fantastic free update with Pantheon and Onslaught and all of that, just I think yesterday they made it so that all expansions before Lightfall, like
That's right.
Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, Witch Queen, and all 4 previous seasons from this year are all free to play until Final Shape.
Now,
So,
that being
if
said, let me cut in just one more time.
go right
I
ahead.
think it's bullshit that you have to pay $300 to get into Destiny 2 to get all the expansions. It's fucking crazy. I think there's a bundle on Steam now that's like $80 that gets you up until Witch Queen, but then you still have to buy Lightfall, right? And Final Shape, and some dungeon passes. So I still think it's a little ridiculous, but I'm glad it sounds like they're understanding the community is rightfully upset. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the part of how we got here, because they've been doing great. We know why they've had to kick it up a notch. Specifically, A, with Lightfall's failure, but there was also the event of last year's layoffs that went public. With,
I do remember hearing about that.
yeah, where I think like 10 to 14% of the company got laid off.
Which, keep in mind, they're a relatively small studio compared to some other studios.
Yeah, they're like,
So that's a fucking lot.
but not only that, it also included some community managers who were like very much in the limelight, and so it was a massive fiasco, and they lost a lot of player trust and support there. So they've been having to work to build that back up over and over again, to the point where now community sentiment is actually, for the first time in like a long while, hopeful, which is fantastic.
Well,
But
and I think that's what's beautiful about the way they have adapted the MMO genre, because they've made an MMO loot shooter, which is really cool, and I would say it's an MMO light. And I think it's good if you like MMOs, but you're a grown-ass individual who can't spend enough time to play a normal MMO. And moving from Final Fantasy XIV and canceling my sub for both Final Fantasy XIV and WoW now, I gotta say, never been happier. It's so nice. I don't have to kill myself to get everything done in a very short period of time. And I think what's nice, especially about how this whole story is unraveled, is, do you know who the middleman is in all of this? Same as Helldivers, Sony. Destiny 2 is a good spot, but I do want to talk just a little bit more about one more live service game before we talk about some games that we're all looking forward to and things like that. And that is Escape from Tarkov. Now, Zack actually reminded me about this before we started recording. And I think this is a really good example of how all it takes is one bad executive to make a game monstrously fail. Now, Escape from Tarkov has been in development for a pretty long time now. I would say just about as long as Star Citizen. Now, unfortunately, unlike Star Citizen, the head of the studio is a dickhead. They, at least from what I've been reading, and this is all kind of hearsay from what I've seen, nothing's been super confirmed. It sounds like the head of the studio kind of ran off with a lot of the money, and they don't have enough money to develop great things anymore. And the big fiasco is back in the day, you could spend about $150, and you got this EOD edition, which I believe stands for End of Darkness, which guaranteed you got all DLC and content moving on into the future, right? Think of it like a permanent season pass. Super cool. Smite's done something similar with their permanent unlock all the heroes thing. Now, past that, recently, they started banning people for a single-player mod of Tarkov, where you could just play on your own, PvE. Then they release a $250, I can't remember exactly what the tier is called, but it's a $250 edition of the game that gets you a bunch of really pay-to-win things, including a PvE mode exclusive to it. And people were pissed. And the Tarkov community is incredibly, I would say, loyal to a fault about a lot of things. Wasting their money is not one of them. Now, Zack, how would you feel if, because I know you've been playing a lot of Destiny for a while, how would you feel if Bungie made a purchasable option to get every single DLC, period, and then just kind of yoinked that away and said, no, it doesn't include the dungeons, though. The dungeons aren't free anymore. I know that you already bought all the DLC ad infinitum, but that's only the expansions, not the dungeons. And you don't get increased vault space, and we're also going to give these guys just free exotics once a week. How would that make you feel?
It would feel pretty bad. I think, especially with the price tag that Tarkov slapped on it, because I'd maybe be mildly upset if it was like $20 to $30. A quarter of a grand, to put it in perspective, a quarter of a grand to get a PvE game mode for a game that you already paid $150 for.
Yeah.
To get everything in the future, quote unquote, guaranteed. That kind of would rub a lot of people's gears the wrong way. I'm not a Tarkov player, but I feel for them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Josh, let's get some of your input on this, too. What do you think about this situation? Because I personally feel like this is part of the reason why I do eventually want us to do an episode on why games are products and not services.
Yeah. Well, as someone who hasn't played Escape from Tarkov or PUBG or anything like that, I don't know any of the games. However, the situation that is going on right now, it's just shitty, in all honesty, because you're paying for the game. You shouldn't have to pay for additional content that is also supposed to be part of the game.
I agree, and I think that it feels like they were swindled. And I think one of the few things in gaming that you should never feel is swindled, right? And I think that's why Steam has this refund policy, and Epic Games does too now, because the whole point is you are buying something usually pretty sight unseen, even if you've seen videos of it. You don't know if it's going to run on your machine well. You have no clue if it's a secret crypto miner, and I think, unfortunately, we're getting into this era where these bigger studios, right, are taking advantage of player trust, especially those that have their own platform to do so.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because I think of companies like Warner Brothers ruining the movie industry and ruining the home streaming industry. And it makes me think of moments like these where it feels like we're just getting in an anti-consumerism era, you know?
Yeah, because it honestly goes back to what we were talking about last week with on the Star Wars Absolute Zeros episode, where we were talking a little bit about the Outlaws situation and what is going on there, where a good chunk of story or just even extra content is locked away behind paywalls, behind ridiculous amounts of paywalls where you don't get the full game. And honestly, just the fact that someone has to pay $60, $70 for 10 to 15 hours of content is ridiculous as
Oh
well.
yeah, I mean at that point, save that content for a sequel. Is the way I would put it. Make a better game out of whatever weird content that you have done. I don't even care that I'm gonna have to wait a couple years, polish it up, make it another game. I'd rather that than you do these weird release strategies where, like Tarkov's doing with the EOD, End of Darkness, get everything, and we give you a high five at the end, and you can gritty on everyone because at the beginning of a wipe you have half of the gear you need to do all of the end game content and shoot people from the other side of the map and they can't see you. Like, it's weird. It's just weird to me. It feels like poor shaming. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
the average American can't drop $250 on a game.
it. I also just saw the that Helldivers has something similar to that. Although it's not really essential to the game, it's more cosmetic, being the super citizen
Oh, yeah,
th-
I
thing.
don't know anyone who's got the Super Citizen edition of the game. That sounds so silly. I don't know why anyone would pay twice the cost of a. Don't look at my Steam, please. Please don't look at my Steam.
Mister Daz putting you on blast right here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Listen, I really like the game.
From what I've seen, the Super Citizen Edition, it's not actually that much of a benefit because it gives you what, one pass for free.
I mean, it also maybe gives you an armor set that just has a really good chance of you not dying a lot because it just has a 50%
True,
chance for you not to
but
die.
you can get an armor set with that same perk for free by just
That's true.
playing the game.
That is
And
true.
also, the thing with their passes and their cost for money is that you can also earn the premium currency in game, which I don't. I would love when companies do that. They just need more companies need to just keep doing that.
Oh
Make it
yeah,
so that I can earn things.
like, and don't make it soul sucking, right? I think the best part, and I think what a lot of live service games need to take notes on, and I think Bungie is taking these notes pretty well too, because we're getting a lot of Bright Dust for free now, so you can get some cosmetics for free. I hope that continues into the future, but we'll see. And I think that it's unfortunate that Helldivers has had these issues recently because you can get super credits. I would say probably about 100 in an hour. If you're if you're just kind of playing the game passively, if you're grinding, I've seen some people get like 150, 200, but this is a few months ago, so I'm not sure if that's still accurate. But it's possible. It's very possible. Like, I don't think, is it you and Ev, I think, haven't actually paid for super credits yet, have you?
I have not paid for super credits yet at all. I have been entirely super credit lists. There's still a pass that I need to get for things, but I'm still like halfway through the super credits, and you can get that just playing the game.
Yeah, and you have to play the game anyways to unlock all of these different things. These, like, deployables and such as that. And by that, you already typically have at least like 500-600 super credits lying around, just passively walking around. But I do think it is that funny part of the show that is, unfortunately, as we wrap up for the evening, the Hellhounds do get kind of restless eventually. Let's talk about what we're excited for that's coming out. I think, you know what? Why don't we start with our new fella here, Zack, Mr. Programmer. What are you excited for that's coming out recently, or
Uh,
is to come out soon?
how soon we talking? Because Final Shape obviously is directly around the corner.
I mean,
But
it could be like a couple months out, I would even say, because it is the cooling part of the industry where we don't get a whole lot of games for a while, and then it picks back up near the beginning of summer.
mhm. There aren't many games that I have on my radar right now besides Final Shape. Uh, the only one that like, because like the Game Awards, I didn't see too many announcements that I was super excited for, but I
Yeah,
will say Monster Hunter Wilds is my number one. I have my eyes on that, but that's not till 2025, sadly.
that's fair. That's fair. I mean, Monster Hunter Wilds looks really fucking cool. It might get me back into Monster Hunter, to be honest with you. It seems a little bit less hardcore than some of the other Monster Hunters, but a little bit more serious than Rise, which I think is a good medium to have. It allows kind of an entry point for people who were otherwise bored by Rise or too intimidated by World.
Hmm.
What about you, Josh? What are you excited for? Anything coming around the corner? Could be games, could be otherwise.
Um, well, I mean, I don't really keep my ear too close to the ground when it comes to like games and whatnot. Oh. Okay, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Ooh, sounds like you got
I've got one.
something.
Yeah,
I
I've
can
got one. I've got one.
scratch that.
I've got one. I've got one. Okay, yeah. Here we go. Hades 2.
That's what I was
Oh,
thinking it was
Hades 2
gonna
looks
be.
so fucking good. Oh,
It looks so good.
if you haven't played the first one, you owe it to yourself. That comes out
Seriously.
in. Oh no, it already came out. Fuck yeah, it's out.
Is
Go
it
buy
out
it.
or is it early access?
I think it's
Oh,
It's
early
out.
access.
It's early access, but it's still out.
Yeah, Hades 1 was in early access for quite a while before it hit full release, but so I think Hades 2 is going to have a similar release cycle.
Yeah, and it'll probably be like an extra $10 whenever it's out of release cycle.
It's only
probably.
$30? Oh my goodness, that's so little for such a good game.
Oh yeah. I mean, Hades 1, I think I got for like $20 on Humble Bundle, not too long after it first released. But then again, that was also one of their. I think that's one of that studio's first games, Supergiant. Yeah, they haven't made a
Uh,
whole lot. It's Bastion, Transistor, and then Hades.
well, they've got
But they
Pyre
do
as well, I
they
think.
they do just hit W's, so you can't blame them, right?
Another one I'm looking forward to is Little Kitty Big City.
That looks so. Okay, I have seen a little bit because of seeing it on X.com. Sorry, it took me a second to remember the dumb
Twitter.
nomenclature.
Just dead
Yeah.
name it. It's
Yeah,
always
you can
Twitter.
you can dead name Twitter.
It's one. It's the only thing you can dead
Oh
name.
my god!
Elon
All
Musk
right,
can suck my nuts.
That's the quote of the stream. You can dead name Twitter. I fucking love that. Oh, now for me, I know the Crypt Keeper, the Missus. She is really excited about Luigi's Mansion 2, the remake, and the new Paper Mario game. But I gotta say, guys, I'm really excited for that Wukong game and World of Goo 2, because I played World of Goo on my laptop as a kid, and that game was really fun. It's like a little goofy puzzle game. It's pretty fun. Now, the Wukong game, if you haven't seen it, you really owe it to yourself. I believe it's called Black Myth Wukong. It's going to be on PS5, Steam. It's going to be an action RPG in Chinese mythology, and I fucking love mythology. So if you like Greek mythology, you'll probably also like this. So if you liked Assassin's Creed, Odyssey, or if you liked Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is more Norse mythology, you'll probably like this. And it looks really cool. It kind of seems Souls-like-y, which I love. I am a absolute slut for that. And it looks like it's going to be run pretty well. I saw some good things about Game Science as far as their dev team goes. So we'll have to see what goes on. We'll have to see
You
what goes
don't
on.
you
There
don't
is
get many single player games that are very good anymore. So it seems like this might be pretty good.
I'm
There is
hopeful.
one more game that is on my radar that I forgot about, but
Yeah.
it's because it's
Go
been in early access for a while, but it's going to be hitting 1.0 soon-ish.
Please tell me it's. What was it? 7 Days to Die or something like that.
No,
No.
it's
That game also just.
Satisfactory.
It's what?
Satisfactory.
Satisfactory is really, really good.
Satisfactory is really good, and it's almost at 1.0 release. I'm so excited for that.
Fuck yeah. You know what? We will have to play some Satisfactory together because I bought that game, played it for, let's see, 3.5 hours, and never picked it back up because I just kind of was like, damn, now what? You know? But I'd love to play it with some goofballs, some friends, if you're down. But that being said,
Actually, it is.
Josh, now that
Oh,
you're here, I can say the funny phrase in front of you. Josh, cue the music.
no.